Yeah, hi everyone, this is how it went this week. So, not too bad. 904 was looking to be an absolute disaster of a round, but ended up actually being alright in the end. Um, yeah, with Matt Short going out, not playing 2 games, I had him as captain, and it looked like being an absolute disaster with Jack Edwards, being have injuries issues as well. I thought he was not going to be playing. But yeah, finished round just in the top that 1,500 for the round, which is not too bad. Could have been a bit better. Um, and still went up in ranks to 222 overall rank of 226, which is great. Best overall ranking I've ever had in any super coach, which is been a shock. I haven't really had an exceptional round either. Like I've had good rounds, but nothing like in the top 200 or anything like that either. If I did, I would even be in a better position. So we'll start off with Tim Selfhurt. That was a bit of a disaster trading. He didn't have any good matches, and I bought him at a premium price because he performed well previously. I reckon he can bounce back. He could do it against the Stars, depending how Melbourne Stars go. That one's going to be a bit iffy because, Melbourne's bowling hasn't been the best at times. Was all right against Brisbane, though. So we'll have to wait and see. I can see this being, a 50 run. You can get to 50 or get out for cheap under 10 runs. Hope he can take a couple of catches as well. But I'll still hold on to him. Just didn't really fire in any of the matches. Renegades were disappointing in both of them as well. And then onto the bench, Harper, 28, which is probably isn't that particularly that great. He only played one match, so it's not a huge problem. But look, he's just there as an emergency option. Now really, I don't think he'll drop out of the team. Hasn't performed that poorly. The problem with Harp, he doesn't score at a high enough run rate. It can be tough to get out tough to get out at times, but isn't really the absolute monster keeper that we sort of want. But he's there as a good emergency option. Probably just hold on to him for the rest of the season because there's just not enough value to get rid of him. But he's not good enough to really be in the main main wicketkeeper slot. And on to the batsman. Short didn't play. Didn't play any of the matches, which ended up being an alright thing in the end because I didn't get an average score at all. I got the vice captain score, which we'll get on to in a minute. So it wasn't a huge problem in the end. It was looking to be at the start. And this is the problem with this, BBL Supercoach, or just cricket in general with the way they do fantasy teams. You don't know until the hour before the game. It's not like AFL where you can sort of you get most of the teams either on Thursday or Friday, and you sort of have an idea who is and who is not playing. Plus, you got usually they'll generally update you through the week as well who's injured and who's suspended. And that's the whole problem with it. Since it's every day there's a game going on. There's no real too much time to make a good decision or much analyst to really who's in, who's out sort of thing. You just have to sort of make your changes on the spot and just hope you're available with an hour left before the game, and you hope you've got nothing on, whether it's work or school or other commitments, and that's the whole problem. Look, a lot of other people in the same situation too. If you traded him out, okay, for the round, you would end lucky. Ableton, 71. Had a crap first game. It did alright in the second game. I believe he took a few wickets. And then Philippi, 36, was a little disappointing. So he probably has to go now. 169,000. He's made his money. He's probably, if he has a poor game next week, he's probably going to drop. He's probably got a lot higher break even now. So he's probably have to go out. I can just cash in on a value and then probably bring in a Thunder batter, maybe a Warner. I'll have to wait and see as well who's going to be selected for that match. So I might even bring Kotsos back to the team as well. We'll soon see. Just have to wait on that. Warner might be a good. Maybe Warner will be a popular selection for the next couple of weeks. Chris Leedon, Had a terrible first game, but had a phenomenal game last night and sort of saved my round, having him as a sort of a semi-pod option. 124, happy with that. I'm surprised not as many people picked him, to be honest. I know he's a high risk for a player, there's a high chance of him, failing, but there's also a good chance of him actually performing well. So, yeah, he had a few poor starts this season. He was due to have a good game, and he did it last night. Just sort of saved my round. If it wasn't for him, I would have been a lot lower ranking. 124. He's probably going to be hold this week, if he can still generate some cash. Tempted to get rid of him. The problem is Adelaide don't have the game until Sunday, so you sort of have to make up your decision now if you want to get rid of him or not. I think you probably have to do it by the end of next week anyway, or end of this round, because Adelaide have got the bye. So I'm not too sure what's going on with Matt Short. You could probably trade Matt Short out this week, or maybe have him as a flex option and trade him out definitely next week. And this is a whole problem going back to the selection issues with Supercoach for BBL. There's no yes or no really who's in and out unless it's a definite injury or suspension, sort of like with Fabian Allen earlier in the season. We sort of knew, okay, he's injured for the whole thing. We'll just get rid of him. We don't know with some of these players, even with Edwards as well. So what I'll probably do, I could probably have Short as a flex. I'll still hold on to Overton this week, definitely. Probably even for the whole tournament, to be honest. Guess we just don't have to bring him in again. But Overton's definitely a hold. Short probably might be as a flex. We probably need to investigate more to see how big the injury is, because he didn't play last night's game either, so maybe they rested him for maybe another match. Who knows? There is a few days left, though, to Sunday, so there might be some time to heal. So hopefully he is playing. And then we're on to Stoners, who had a good game, sort of helped Melbourne Stars get over the line with Dan Lawrence. 96, which is the reason why I still hold on to Stoners. Because as we know what he's capable of. He can get, a 50 off a pretty quick, off like 20 balls, and that will give him a decent score. Plus he can take 1 or 2 wickets as well. And that should get him to close to around 100 or more, which is what we want. So that's why I'm just going to hold Stoners. There's always that fear that he might have that good knock, but then again, he could get a score under 20. It all depends how Melbourne Stars top order go, and if he does bowl or not, which is a bit hit or miss with bowling as well. He's more of a batting all-rounder, but if you can get like 1 or 2 wickets, and maybe even a couple of catches, that might be just enough for the bowling area. But if you can get, decent runs, this is sort of what we want. So he's going to be a hold for now, and there's no real need to get rid of him after that score. And then Baisley, he ended up playing in the end. Took one catch, but I think he did bowl, but he conceded 12, so they didn't get any score out of that. And he scored 1 run, which is a little disappointing. So I'm not too sure if he's going to be in the side going forward. If Matt Short's not playing, he probably will. He might. Not too sure if Baisley was in. He didn't play the first game either. So I'm not too sure what to do with Baisley, because he hasn't really made enough money. Now, if he was on 100,000, then I probably would get rid of him and then bring in a more reliable player. But he's only on 71,000, so he hasn't made enough money, and that's sort of the problem with him and Harper. At least with Harper, I know he's going to be playing, and he can get a score of like 40 or maybe even 50 at some point, and actually be an alright selection for some rounds. With Baisley, you just don't know, and his job security isn't quite there. He can bat and bowl, but he's not really great at either of them. He can probably, he's a bit of a basher, so if he can get like a 30 off 20, he'll get a half decent score. So I'm not too sure what to do with Baisley. I want another hit or miss, and since they are playing on the 5th, which makes it very difficult. If I can find a cheap player who's playing maybe out of, potentially Sydney Thunder as a cheap batting option or cheap all-rounder, potentially I might do that. I'll just have to wait and see on that. I'll probably need to do my own little research on that. Maybe choose a semi-pod option for that. Because I can't have 2 players not playing here, particularly with a bye coming up next week. I'm going to be Probably gonna have to use it. Won't use the boost this week, but I will probably use it for next week. And on to the bowlers. So there's a few surprises here. Sutherland 66, so it is a little disappointing. Was a bit better the first game, but never really got going with a battle bowl. Was mediocre in both, particularly batting. Didn't really get any sort of score up, which is a bit frustrating. Since I had his score, I mean, it's better to have nothing, better than having 66 than nothing. But the problem is some other people might have had a better captaincy option. I mean, it was a bit difficult this week. So a lot of other people in the same situation. Sutherland's still going to be a hold though, because he can score runs, and he can bowl and take a few wickets. He's probably slightly more of a bowling all-rounder, to be honest, although it's not a huge difference. And then on to Connolly, 60, which is not too bad. Did alright. Seems to be batting well this year. His bowling hasn't really got too much of a go with bowling. He can take a wicket now and then, but he's probably still needs to work on that. He's definitely more of a batting all-rounder. The only problem I can see with this selection is that, once Perth do get a few of those players back in, he may go down in the order a little bit, which is probably the only concern in terms of him batting. So he has gone up quite a lot this year, which is great. So that's been a successful selection. We'll soon see how that turns out. He's going to be a hold for now because there's no point of me getting rid of him since he's been performing quite well. And he's an all-rounder as well. And then Henry Thornton, the best player this round in my team by a mile. Yeah, it's a bit of a roller coaster ride really because he performed mediocre the last week. He didn't even score 10 points, but he scored 153. He did have a double, but either way, whether it's one game or two matches, 153 is a great score. And he's going to be a hold just simply because he might be able to still generate cash, and then I'll probably move him on next week. I'm playing Hobart, which can be a bit shaky at times, Hobart, as we saw in the first game. So there's a potential that he can get a couple of wickets from that. He's a hold. And then you've got Bethrall, so that's a hard. Surprised not many people selected Bethrall either. I guess you're either probably choosing at Renegades bowlers who are doing pretty well this season. But I decided to take something different. And he had mediocre first game, but had a decent second game, took a wicket and scored some runs. Maybe could have done a bit better at both. But at least he bowled in the second game because I was worried he might have. It depends on the game situation. So he's going to be hold for now. He should hopefully go up more in value. We'll have to wait and see. It's more next week I'm worried about than this week. Simply due to the bye, and since there's quite a few good Adelaide players, I've got 5, which is way too many. I know they had the double. I'm going to have to make a decision on that. And then Warren, he's going to be just a loophole, I think, for the rest of the season. Walter, so I took him off, which ended up being a good selection, simply because he's out of form. Now, I could probably get rid of him, or I could hold him. I don't want to get rid of him at a loss. He could bounce back. He does have that potential to do so. So I can keep the faith with him. Depends how desperate for a trade, because Brisbane don't have the double anyway. I don't think coming up at all for the rest of the season. I could be wrong about that. Definitely not round 6. I think there's not too many more doubles after. I think Hobart do have one more. Hobart's got one in round 8. So you can probably start working on Hobart players probably from round 6 onwards, after when Thunder have the bye. But there's no real need, from what I can see here, to bring any more Brisbane Heat players unless they're an absolute bargain. So I'll probably hold Walter for the time being, because I may need him next week. And then Sampa, 103, did his job. He's bounced back. He's too good to perform that poorly for so long. I'm glad it has an emergency option, because he's had a decent first game, but the second game was even better. Took a couple wickets, which is what we want from Zampa. If he can get like a couple of wickets each game, that'd be great. And he's going to be a hold for now, although, yeah, he's too low, 88,000. I may get rid of him next week, depending on the situation and with players and who is and who isn't out. And then, yeah, Edwards, 37, mediocre scores, probably not good enough. Since bringing Edwards in, it's been a bit of a disaster. Lucky he played this round. I was worried, he's going to be injured, which is the reason why I put him as a flex option. Panned out okay in the end instead of having a donut. But again, with this, I like a little bit more clarity if he's playing, yes or no. Look, should I get rid of him? I'm probably still lose a little bit of money, but he's that batting all rounder too. There isn't, it's one of those things that it's probably best to hold. He's got Melbourne Stars for round 6 coming up. Round 5, Brisbane Heat. Brisbane Heat are out of form at the moment, so you could maybe take a couple of wickets and maybe potentially, get a decent runs. Although Brisbane Heat do have a decent bowling lineup. Although Bartlett's the only one who's really performing. Him and Johnson, probably their 2 best bowlers. So he's probably a one that you want to just keep an eye on for that match. But look, I'll just hold him in my side anyway. So what trades I'm going to do, this is probably the toughest part of this round. With what we can do, was Walton plays first game, so I could probably put the emergency on him and just have Zampa in. And then if he does poorly, then I can just put in Warren there. The thing is, if Stars, so it looks like I don't think Warren's going to be playing another game. Just simply because he didn't perform that great when he did play, and we've got a few players back in the lineup. He's going to be at a loophole for now. I mean, 44,000 is enough to get any value out of. So that's what we'll do there. Either way, it doesn't matter. Walter's going to be as an emergency option. In terms of who I'm getting rid of here, I'll just hold Thornton for another game. He's had a low break even. They're playing Hobart, so you could potentially get 1 or 2 wickets from that too. So there's no one who I really want to get rid of out of there. Although Thunder do have some decent bowlers. If I was going to get rid of someone, it probably will be Walter at this stage. Next week I might have to get rid of Thornton though. I probably will have to. Now, what is Bailey on? I'll probably want to get rid of him too. This is actually probably the toughest week, to be honest. Well, I can get rid of Philippi. He's made his money. That one's probably the easiest decision. Just simply, I know he's performed well, but you've still got other wicket keepers here. Actually, I'll just have a look at wicket keepers for the time being, just for a minute. Is he still the top wicket keeper? He is, but you got Tim Selfite too. You can't really. I mean, you could have 2 quality wicket keepers there. I just want to cash him on now. Potentially for a Sam Billings here, which would be ideal for next week. He's actually made a bit of money, so he's going to probably buy him at a bit of a higher price. And he's got Perth this week too, so he could potentially get an average score because Perth have got a poor bowling lineup. Then again, you want to make it a little bit easier for next week by preparing this week. So there's less trades you need to make next week. Bancroft as well, 18. Got Perth though, which is probably the worst side. They've got the best bowling lineup, Perth. So the odds of Billings and Bancroft doing well is slim to none. I mean, look, I could probably bring in Billings this week, but he's at top end there. In terms of just regular batters though, Thunder, Daniel Sams as well. So you could probably bring Sams in. And Kotsonis, I don't know if he's going to be playing or not. Maybe I could bring him back in potentially. That's another thing I'm not too sure about, if he's going to be selected or not. And David Warner's probably a player you want to bring in as well going forward. So I could probably hold on to Lynn this week, then bring in Warner in next week for Lynn. Short, I'm not too sure what to do with him. So I'll do that trade. For the bowlers, maybe I could get rid of Bith Rolls. Probably the only one I want to get rid of. But again, he's playing the Stars. That could either be, I can see it either being a disaster or him actually doing well. Depends if he bowls. If he can bowl, he may potentially get a couple of wickets. But then again, if Maxwell, Stonis, or Lawrence, someone does well out of those players, it could potentially be a bit of a pain with the Renegade players here. Say, it's probably the only player I'm going to get really rid of this round. Unless I get rid of Short and just bring in, and then use that money to bring in a better bowler. Let's have a look. Where's Agar's another one that I want to bring in. He's done really well in the first 2 games. Ferguson had a good start, but he's dropped off last game. Could potentially bring him in too. And then Chris Green is another okay player. Let's have a look at the Thunder bowlers in general. You got Tanvi, Sagna, Andrews, and these ones aren't really going to play. Probably maybe even bringing a Where's Agar next week, maybe for an Henry Thornton potentially. Depends how Agar goes this week. That's the decision I'm going to have to make. Otherwise, I get rid of Walter since he's out of form, then bring in Agar. But I'm going to have to get rid of some of these other Adelaide players too. At some point. So at this stage, I'll probably just put Short here at flex. Yeah, I can't really put it at VC. And then for these 2 matches, maybe I could get rid of Lynn potentially, and then bring in Warner. But if Lynn gets a good score against Hobart, that sort of changes. Stonis, still keep him. This one's actually a tough one. But could have Edward. Connolly's at VC option, and then have Sutherland as a captain. Or Overton as a captain, I guess. And the VC on Edwards. Or even a Connolly. I don't know. Could have the VC and just maybe hold out tonight, and then that's probably what I'll do. That's what I'll do as a VC captioning option. But in terms of the trades, I'm not too sure exactly what to do yet. Who's in and who's out. If Short is out, most definitely, I could maybe just make that trade in and then maybe bring in a few Thunder players in this week. I might even just do that and take the gamble, which is probably what I'll do. I'll actually end up probably doing that. Take out Short because he's not going to be playing next week, so I don't have to worry about it. And if since he is partly injured, he's not going to have Daddy's going to have a really good game anyway. So probably get rid of Short, to be honest, and maybe bring in a Where's Agar. Then next week I'll probably take out Lynn for Warner. I'll probably even hold Overton because I do want to hold him for the rest of the season, but Thornton and Lynn will probably have to go next week. For the time being. So that's pretty much it for this week. I hope you did well this round. I know it was a tough one for a lot of people. Thank you for watching.